Okay, hey there guys. So for today's war, only the third war in, end of the first week, but we're off with probably the one of the biggest two wars of the season for us. It's our first matchup against GT40. Probably going to face them again in the second half of the season, war like 9, probably, if I had to guess. But this war has a champion I have not used in a very long time. If you guys have followed my channel since earlier on, you would know I used this champion a lot right when I joined GT40, and was probably one of the reasons I was able to stay in Masters for that first bit, was the fact that I could use her. Not the best, but I could use her. And she's making her comeback. Funny enough, against GT40, so... yeah. Let's get into this. So, Ascended Quake with the Hulk Relic. When you attach a rune to the Hulk Relic, it lets you do a little bit of extra damage on non-contact hits that deal physical damage, or that deal damage. I don't remember the exact wording of it right now. So I'm going up path 6 here, and then I'm going to switch over to path 4. I'm going to start off with this Galan. The reason why I'm quaking this Galan is he has the combat prowess deja vu, so every time I repeat a combo action, he's going to gain a prowess, which will give him planetary mass. Bad. He also has spiked armor, so anytime I would crit, he would gain planetary mass. You see where that's going? So I understand why my officer gave me Quake for this specific fight. This is definitely a pretty good matchup here. Fortunately, it's only a rank 4 Galan, so it's not too thick. And as long as I don't get hit, he won't be gaining his extra physical resistance buffs. So it's going to be a pretty simple Quake match. This war, I'm not going to speed up the Quake fights because it's a pretty big war for me, and it's also the first time using her in Seasons. But if I start getting assigned to her a lot, I will start speeding up the Quake fights again, because that's what I used to do. It's a lot when you have 4 Quake fights, 5 Quake fights a war. You don't want to see that. So you can see sometimes, and I'm able to hold it a bit longer, that little black thing that pops up, that's the Hulk Relic. And if you watch, you can see there's a 677 and a 513 tick. If I remember correctly, it's the 513 tick is the Hulk tick. So it pretty much doubles my damage as I'm just holding heavy, so it makes it go from 600 to 1100 or 1200 a tick, which is quite a big difference, right? That's double the damage. And it's also going to counteract that willpower even better, because that's one of Quake's biggest issues, always is. When you stack max willpower with max physical resist masteries, her damage just gets lowered so much. And that could come back into the meta of having people place defenses with physical resist if Quake comes into other people's rosters here. I haven't seen too many Quakes out there in the field. What am I saying? Jeez. Out there in war so far. I don't think I've seen too many, but there's probably a couple others. Up next here is this Sauron with Warlock. So you can bleed Sauron, but Sauron, when you bleed him, has critical resistance and something else I don't remember. So I don't want to really drop my heavy here, even though the heavy will obviously unlock his willpower. It will trigger willpower, and I'll power drain him. But Sauron has a natural regen, so I don't really have to worry about that. As you saw from the Quake fight, I have half suicides on, so it's not my absolute max damage, but it's pretty high. Maybe I could have set up my masteries in a way where for the Warlock fights I would switch into full suicides and then take them off, because when I switch on to path 4 for my second Quake fight, because of the heal block on path 4, I'm going to drop my suicides, because that'll just be a lot of damage against me. I want the power start 1 here for this fight, because I don't want to have to deal with his unblockable too much, because this is no longer the armor burn tactic, where Warlock but he would remove the prowess last season because of his the armor ups and the power drains. Those were removing those, but he no longer removes the prowess, so Sauron will gain his unblockable, and I ended up eating an SP1 there to the face. But Warlock's built-in safety of when he has the armor up buff, he can't get crit on. I felt pretty safe if I ate a full SP1 to the face. If I ate an SP2 or something and got a degen on me, or an SP3 with the degen, now I'm getting worried, but just that's not too big of an issue. But it's not as easy to Warlock a Sauron, but as you saw, it's still pretty easy, and if I had full suicides on, would have been even quicker. So, and also because I don't have full suicides on, I put on a 12 and a 200 boost, because wanted to make sure I was getting as close to SP2 as I can, because this Havoc is a very traditional Warlock fight, but if he throws that special, he breaks your armor, and then his plasma buildup gets up really quickly, and he doesn't go in, and then he's unblockable. The fight can get messy if that happens, so I just want power start 1, and I want to get my SP2s off as quick as I can, and in between my SP2s, I'm just going to hold block as hard as I possibly can. As you see, I just instantly go into block 1-2 hits, trying to not even push him above that bar of power there. Throw another SP2, and that's just how I'm going to finish the fight off, repeating the same actions. And I think what I was saying between the Galan fight and the Sauron fight, just yes, this is a very, very big war against GT40, as it always is. Last season they came second, we came first. The one before that, I think they were first and we were second. And obviously I know a lot of the guys there, but a lot of the Salty and GT people know each other. It's just how Masters ends up working like that. So this is always a really, really fun match, especially for me. And it's a match I always want to show up well in because I don't want to die against GT40. But Quake had me, you could say, quaking in my boots because I haven't used Quake, especially competitively, in a while. And there's also a secondary downside to using Quake. Quake shows your alliance's strategy for how the war is going to go. Quake is safe. If you play Quake well, Quake is the safest champion in the game. But she's a slow champion. And if you didn't know this, GT40 and Salty in the past, I think twice before this one, or 3 times before this one, have had 2 or 3 0-0 ties, where obviously then it comes down to time, and GT40 has won both of those times, or all 3 of those times, whichever it is. So now this is that Black Widow that I took last war or 2 wars ago, whichever one it was. I think that was last war that I used the Void for those 2 fights. So my officer saw how that assignment went with Void, and he realized they agreed it was a little bit sketchy. Not undoable, but sketchy. So I'm having Quake for this fight because, well, she doesn't block. But made a mistake. Fortunately, with how this goes, I'm going to have my concussion up when that placebo drops there, and I have 2 concussions on, so there's no shot of her triggering her MD. So she's only at a quarter of a bar of power, maybe a third of a bar of power if you want to be generous there. But I got very lucky there because I dropped that heavy and I got a buff on me, and that should have given her a lot. So she's going to start throwing a couple heavies here. Fortunately, by the time she started throwing these heavies, I guess Meek didn't have his deep wounds on because I'm not taking the damage from deep wounds from the burst, and I think she should still be above my health. Because the way deep wounds works is when you're above their health, they take a percentage damage burst of direct damage or bleed damage when you trigger a bleed on them. And she should be above my health until pretty low health here. But this Quake fight, as you can see, with class advantage, it actually goes by fairly well, fairly quickly, and not too many hiccups in that fight. It was just that first heavy was the only mistake. So pretty proud of that quaking. As I said, it's been a very long time since I've used Quake in this type of situation, especially for this big of a war. Yeah. Because this is obviously a pretty big war being against GT40, as I've reiterated probably too many times by now that you guys' ears want to fall off. So I'm going to go up against John's Rintra here. I always feel like I pronounce that champion's wrong, no matter how I say its name. It's wrong in my head. So, rank 5 Void. As I said, I had that gem and I should have done it for that last war. Maybe I don't die there if I do. But, not making that mistake, I ranked him up, and as you can see, I'm pretty low on my gold there. So, switching back over to the Power Start 1 boost from the Invul boost, because that's what it said on the assignment, plus it makes sense because so the way this node works is when you're immune to something, they gain a power gain passive, and they also have personal space regeneration, which both of those are countered by Withers in Despair and Petrify. So I have Despair on, I have Withers from the global here, so I'm going to drop a couple heavies just to keep the slows up. It's an extra debuff for damage, and for Rintra, you want to throw those heavies in, or throw SP1s to drop his charges down, so that way you don't get up too high. So right, as I'm immune to anything, he's going to gain those power gains, or just that one power gain, I guess. And I'm going to be able to start reversing it now that I have 2 Petrifies. If you look, his power is just draining away so fast. But there's one mistake I make, or just the way that Rintra works on this node, because I have to throw so many specials and so many heavies to keep his charges down so he doesn't gain unstoppable or rupture me too much. I actually am not able to keep close to him, which is not it's not required for this fight, but it makes the fight go quicker because you get more regens on him, and when he has more regens, his healing is reversing quicker because you have more Despair. You have all the stuff stacking. As you can see, the reversing of the regen really speeds up the way that fight goes, but I have to keep distancing myself because I need to keep throwing those heavies to stop his charges. Unfortunately, It ended in another 0-0 loss. We played very, very well, and obviously they played very, very well. Congrats on GT40 for being the first alliance to break 4,000 war rating, I believe. Or at least 4,000 war rating since they've changed it. I don't remember exactly, but it should be the first alliance with 4,000 war rating. Absolutely incredible achievement there. Whoever won this war was actually, I believe, going to get 4,000 first, but it was them in the end, and no one better could have had it besides us, obviously, I guess. So, big props to them, big props for the win. It was a very good first week of the season, great way to end it. I know it's a loss, but it shows we have donuts in us from every BG, and we can stick together as zero if we need to. So that's really good for looking forward for the rest of the season. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching, and I'm sorry about the Quake gameplay, but hey, might be some more in it this season. I don't know yet, but thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!